Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. Hey friends, before I jump into the intro for this episode, I wanted to share something with you all that's been brewing within me for quite some time. When I began podcasting, I wanted to focus on talk therapy topics, yet I'm also really passionate about another topic, which is helping women live their best lives as they move into midlife. You may or may not know this about me, but when I turned 40, that's when I made the decision to start living my life differently. So for the past 7 years, I've worked really hard to live more authentically and congruently. And now I want to start bringing this information to the podcast. I'm lining up guests, I'm interviewing folks that will not only inspire you to see midlife differently, but will also bring you the know-how to do so. I am unsure if I will start a whole new podcast or rebrand this one because podcasts are a lot of work and it's just me right now behind the scenes. Well, except for Laura, who is my editor, and Mike, who is my website guy. So creating and producing two separate podcasts feels overwhelming, yet also at the same time, it really feels possible. So as one of my guests said recently, I'm living in the land of possibilities. All right, so let's talk about this week's episode. This week, I'm talking with Nicole Liloia. She's a business coach and strategist who works with women entrepreneurs to help take charge of their business, money, and life so they can achieve bigger profits and even bigger impact. She knows that running a business can get complicated when you're doing it on your own, but she's here to help you simplify things so you can reach your goals faster without burning out. And I've been there, right? If you're anything like me, you may doubt yourself and what you're doing from time to time, but Nicole knows you are made for this, and she's excited to help you expand to the next level of your journey. And in this episode, she gives tips and advice on how to go from idea to implementation. She talks also about developing relationships, creating an email list, building your audience, group coaching, online courses, and much, much more. I learned so much from our talk, and I hope you do as well. So let's jump into the episode. Well, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Therapy Show. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard, and this week's guest is the fabulous Nicole Liloia. How are you, Nicole? Thanks for being here.
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Did I butcher it?
Nope, you got my name right.
All right. I'm so proud of myself. We practiced that a few times, you guys, because I really hate when I mess people's names up. But I'm so excited that you're here. Nicole, will you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am living right outside New York City. We're just talking about this in a very busy, crazy area right now.
Uh-huh.
And I am a therapist, and I have a practice that's always specialized in highly anxious, smart yet stressed women.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also do business consulting, where I work with a lot of therapists and other service providers in terms of helping them grow their businesses, helping them get consistent clients, and then scale to multiple income streams.
Whoa. I think you are going to drop some incredible information for our audience today, because that is something that I hear from a lot of our peers about, is all those things you just brought up. Can you share your story? You have an interesting story about how you pivoted and shifted into this work.
Yeah. So I got my master's. It starts with my master's at Columbia, master's in social work. And I got a clinical job, just like many of you, just to get my hours in at a mental health clinic in Harlem. And truthfully, I got very burnt out, very overwhelmed by working in the bureaucratic system and how they just try to overload you with more clients and shorter sessions and all that stuff, more paperwork. And when I finally got my hours in, I needed 3 years, I prepared to leave that job. And I was just so tired. And I just honestly couldn't imagine finding another job at the time or even starting a private practice. So I actually took time off to travel and volunteer in Venezuela. So I did that for a few months. And when I got back, I was just like, I cannot get another 9-to-5 job. I had no clue what I was going to do, of course, like many of us, but I just couldn't get another 9-to-5 job. So I ended up, which this is rare as mental health professionals, I got a part-time job. And then I got a bunch of consulting jobs and freelancing
Mm-hmm.
and ended up just freelancing, doing clinical work, doing some counseling, doing some case management, and kind of pieced it all together. And I just loved how creative it made me feel to do different projects, to be in charge of my own schedule.
Awesome. Man, I was intrigued when you told me your story. I was like, ooh, tell me more, tell me more. So that's really cool. Okay, great. So I know that today we want to talk about all of the things. Like, where do you think it's best to start?
I mean, I think let's start with kind of like getting consistent clients and then shift into the multiple income streams, because I think the strategies to help you get consistent clients are going to help you with multiple income streams, but you really do want to have solid income from consistent clients, have that one secure income stream before you try to scale up. Otherwise, you're just going to overwhelm yourself.
Okay, great. Let's go there.
I think that first, one of the best steps to take to get consistent clients is to really focus on building relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are three types of relationships that you want to focus on. You want to focus on first the relationship with your community, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's your ideal clients.
Okay.
So you really want to focus on knowing who your ideal clients are, knowing where they are, knowing their struggles, and knowing, where they want to be. Why do they want to come to you for help? What do they want the endpoint to be? And when you know that, you can really create content and start to communicate with them and build a community of them, whether it's on your Instagram, whether it's on your Facebook page, or if you start, which I recommend, to build an email list with
Okay.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard this many times from business coaches about those are the first two things that you have to do is identify who your ideal client is and what your niche is. So I think that's really great advice. And then you suggest building an email list. Now, do you suggest building the email list because you're going to gain clients from that or is there a reason for that more so?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure that you are giving yourself an opportunity to support people, to help people,
Okay.
and to build your impact. If you want multiple income streams down the road, you do need to have a bigger audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a handful of, you're going to need more people than to just hit your income than 20 clients or
Right.
15 clients or 25 clients. You're going to, if you're selling a course or something, the pricing is different. You may want to reach 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives you the opportunity to start building up that audience, showing them your expertise, nurturing them. But of course, in the beginning and even down the road, they're going to want to work with you one-to-one. So they're going to reach out to you about client spots, about becoming a client. You can reach out to them and let them know you have client spots available or how to work with you. So it really does start to help you
Mm-hmm.
to really get in front of that bigger audience and get used to it. It's to providing them with information and really figuring out what their deeper needs are and how you could create programs and services for them down the road as well.
I like it. I mean, that's pretty much there's no other way to do it. If you want to get in front of more people, you have to build your audience. Like, there's no bones about that. Like, that's something I have learned. You've got to build your audience. And I know for a lot of therapists, it's kind of scary because they don't really think about putting themselves out there. Do you help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I help with that through, first of all, helping them figure out, what problems they solve for their audience, what would be attractive to their audience in terms of why would they sign up to your mailing list. Usually you want to create an opt-in or freebie, something that solves a small problem that they have, that introduces you to them, that helps them and supports them so that they see they'll get results from you.
Mm-hmm.
So I do work with my clients on those first steps.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. Awesome. And then from there, what is usually the next step for these folks?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you also want to work on some other relationships. And there's two categories in
Mm.
addition to your own community that I recommend focusing on. One is referral sources. And this is a huge source of initial one-to-one clients. And again, down the road, it'll be other customers for your products or services. And that is people who, what you want to focus on are people who have complementary audiences to you. So in the beginning, for example, if you work with, I was just talking to one of my clients who works with, athletes. And right now with everything going on with the current crisis, a lot of student athletes are just struggling with the loss of community, the loss of their seasons, the loss of opportunities. It's just heartbreaking. And especially for kids in college and athletes in college who maybe this was their last baseball season and now they can't have it, So, for example, she would want to build referral sources with the director of the counseling center at the college.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So she would want to nurture that relationship because they have the same audience and they would be able to send over clients to her.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe she'd want to build relationships with physical therapists who, once again, they share the same audience. And if athletes have injuries or things like that, or are struggling with a loss of their season or how to deal with their injury and the mental health strains of that, physical therapists would be a great referral source for her. So it's usually someone who is a professional that, once again, shares that same audience as you. And then they are going to refer to you and you can refer to them too.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see how those audiences would not cross-pollinate, but something to that effect. Like they would definitely be invested in helping, those young college students deal with the loss of their sports season. So that makes great sense. Okay, cool. So then are there other relationships or referrals that you kind of take into consideration or we should take in? Mm-hmm.
There's one more type of relationship I really recommend you building, and that's a transactional relationship. So that's where you're looking to do a service for somebody's audience. And this is someone, once again, who has a complementary business to yours, meaning they don't do the same business as you necessarily, but they provide a service to your audience. So, for example, once again, if you are maybe someone who works with new moms, you might team up with doulas or birth centers and really look to do a training or something like that for their audience. Or you might pitch yourself to podcasts, just like, I'm on this podcast right now, and you might pitch yourself to a podcast to get in front of that audience. So that's where you're not looking necessarily for those like referrals and individual clients, but you're really looking to get in front of a bigger audience, provide a service, show your expertise, and you're looking to bring them back into your community.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I think that's so wise and so smart. Yeah, like we're doing right now. Right?
Exactly. And getting to know other people, which is the best part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons I love doing this so much is I get to connect and grow relationships with just all kinds of incredible people, you included. So this has been really helpful to think about the different types of relationships that we want to grow, nurture, develop, all that good stuff. Okay. So how many hours a week can this be done for a therapist? Like, we think about all the stuff that we do with our clients and then we want to have a life and we want to be with our families. Like, how many hours a week do you think is necessary in the beginning to kind of start the ball rolling to get the bigger audience going?
Right. Well, I always say to my clients, like, how many clients do you like, especially when you're at the start and you're trying to get consistent clients, how many clients do you want per week? Right. So say somebody's looking to build up to 20 clients and we really do work into a plan. Like, it's not just like choosing a random number of clients, is really looking at your finances, how much money you want to make, how much profit you want to make, and, figuring out what your rates are, what your average rate is, and using that to determine how many clients you need per week. So say you need 20 clients to reach your income goals, then you would actually want, and say you only have 10, then you have at least 10 hours there that if you would gladly fill those hours with clients and have those hours to work with clients, right there you have about 10 hours to do marketing.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Relationship building.
Yeah. So you kind of want to start with the end in mind. Think about what's the end goal and then back it out and make the plan from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Do you have a preference for how they grow an audience or where they grow an audience? I mean, I have some ideas, but I really want to hear from you What do you recommend for building an audience?
Yeah, so that is definitely those transactional relationships and people who have that bigger community. So, a lot of my clients do trainings for schools if they work with kids, or they might do a workshop at the library for parents. And once again, that allows them to reach those bigger audiences that are not theirs and borrow the audience. And the people who are interested that really connect with their style come over to their audience and become their community.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. Because my go-to, my brain goes to like social media. Like, oh, you gotta when you say build an audience, I think, oh, you gotta be on social media. But what you're saying makes even more sense, that you want to be building, especially if you're looking for clients or to gain, referrals. You want to be doing that locally within your state, however makes the most sense for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Or even bigger later on when you're looking to sell courses and you don't need them to be in your state, or you're looking to run like, group workshops or things like that, where it's more psychoeducational. And once again, it's not therapeutic. You don't need to be, using your license for that. You're not treating the mental health issues. But the thing is, the beauty of this is that it brings you clients and it brings you that audience to your social media. A lot of times, I think because, we're not trained in marketing, it's hard to get to the social media piece and just start and find people.
Mhm.
It's like you're posting and you're creating content, but you're not reaching people really.
Right.
It tends to be like your friends who like your page or follow
Right.
you.
Right.
And this is what brings over your audience to the social media. And I think like what happens a lot is it's so scary and intimidating to put yourself out there and to make these offers and to offer trainings and to create the trainings and to build relationships with people in the hopes that you'll get clients.
Mhm.
And I think that that's where you get the bigger results though. It's easy to kind of put up a picture on Instagram and write a quick caption for it,
Mhm.
but it's a little bit more passive.
Yeah. Yeah, I really believe that people need to hear you, see you, get a sense of your personality and your style, really get an idea of how you present yourself, and that starts building a relationship before you have even met. So I think that's
Mhm.
really important. And in fact, I remember, I think it's on your email list. The tone that you use in your email list is like the tone of here you are today on the show. It's very similar. But until I met you, I didn't really have like a sense of that. It's
Yeah.
really interesting how that all kind of plays out. And people always say, well, when it comes to an email list, what do I say? What do I say? I don't know what to say or what to write to people. And, the best thing that I ever got was just write how I like to talk to people, how I'm going to show up. So I know it's kind of harder to get that feel over an email, but I like to think that, okay, well, if you've listened to one of my shows and then you're on my email list, like you're starting to get a sense of who I am and what I'm about. Hey friend, want to be more comfortable while sitting on the therapy couch? I sure did, and went looking for pants and tops that were soft, wrinkle resistant, and would match just about anything I already had in my closet. And now Zaya Active makes up about 80% of my wardrobe. Would you like to learn more? Head over to my site, lisamustard.com, and click on the Activewear tab. And don't think this is just for women. They have men's and kids' clothes too, and our family is loving the quality, and I am loving the price tags. So head over to my site to check it all out. So do you help your clients with that? Like, do you help them from A to Z build this all up?
I don't do the tech piece because I suck at tech myself.
Okay.
But I think that's really reassuring to my clients that you don't have to be this tech expert to get started with a mailing list or something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You really don't. You just need to pick one and like learn the basics.
Yeah, and hire someone to set it up and
Mhm.
pay them $30 an hour and even have them train you in it
Yeah.
sometimes or create videos for you. It's a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, definitely in terms of planning out the freebie, then really creating a plan to get that visibility, who to build referral relationships with, who to build those transactional relationships with, and what kind of content to continue to create to nurture that relationship and use it to get people to work with you. Because I think that's another thing. I think people put out put out content that's good, but then they just hope it will randomly bring in people and there's no real call to action or system or underlying process in place to turn those people into clients.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've been through that many times in the past with different things that I've started and tried. And I totally get it. If you don't tell them what to do, they don't do anything. So you have to give them a call to action,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like. Yeah. I really like that piece of advice because I didn't heed that in the very beginning. So I get it now. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we shift a little bit into alternative income streams?
No, I think this is like a great start for
Okay.
anybody who's listening that
Mhm.
once again, wants consistent income or wants those multiple income streams.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about alternative income streams for therapists. I hear from folks, I want to write a book. I want to create a membership group. I want to do an online course. I want to be a coach. I want to consult. I want to X, Y, and Z. There's so many things out there. What's been your experience so far? And that's a big question. Like, I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about alternative income streams for therapists, just overall?
Yeah, one, I think that don't try to do too many income streams at one
Mhm.
time. I think that's what happens. I think that they maybe only have a couple clients, they're not hitting their income goals, and they're like, oh, let me create a course where people could just buy it off my list. But if you can't yet get enough clients to fill your spots, it's going to be very hard to make enough income
Right.
from a product.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So, yeah, focus on that first income stream of one to one. It's usually one to one clients
Mhm.
and fill up those spots. And then from there, because you're working with people who are part of your hopefully ideal clients and target market,
Mhm.
you're going to start to see like what are small problems you can solve for them? What are their specific needs? What's going to specifically support them in terms of creating a new income stream. And I do recommend usually shifting to a group program of
Mhm.
some sort next. And for those of you who are like, I hate groups too at first. And then I tried one and now it's like one of my favorite ways to work with people.
Yeah.
So I think just stay open to doing different income streams.
Mhm.
And the benefits of a group are that, for example, even if you have, 10 people in it and charge $50 a person, if it's just an hour per week, that's $500 for that hour versus, 150 for one client.
Yeah.
So, you can scale up your income. You can make more income in less time with
Mhm.
groups.
Very cool. Okay. I like that idea. That's really smart. So that's what you would normally recommend for folks to consider first?
Yeah, and you could get creative with your groups. Like one of my clients did an all-day workshop, in a
Mhm.
group with a group.
Okay.
And that way it was just like a one-off thing. And then she actually got some new clients straight from that workshop. So what it does is it brings you multiple income sources from one client too, which is nice. So it's not like you always have to get tons of new people, but your individual clients can also be part of the group. So it's sort of like you're
Mhm.
helping them in multiple ways and making income from them in multiple ways too by supporting them more.
Yeah. That doesn't seem like so daunting compared to, jumping into like writing a book or building out a huge e-course or something. That seems pretty manageable to me. I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's a great way to test your ideas for a course
Mhm.
later.
Oh yeah.
One of my clients, for example, started just doing like a parenting support group for free to help people during this time. And now it's resulting in, helping into a paid group, helping parents tame the temper tantrums. And that just came out from listening to the group calls and hearing what people were dealing with. And then new people reaching out to her because they see her doing these group calls and having that expertise about specific issues and seeing the commonalities, right? And I think a lot of times what happens is we're working with our audience and then we see somebody doing something and it looks successful, or, we hear about one thing and we choose a different audience. And that's one of the biggest errors with multiple income streams is not utilizing your current audience and their issues that you know so well and that you've gotten familiar with and hopefully built a community of, but then going in a completely different direction where you don't have any access to that audience.
I think that's so wise. So wise. And don't bite off more than you can chew with too many different audiences because you will drive yourself crazy. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really smart. I like how you broke that down. Okay, so that would be the first place for therapists to consider to add another stream of revenue. Then what do you go from there? Do you?
Well, I want to address books because you brought that up. And I think
Okay.
that's another thing where people think, oh, like, let me write a book. And I actually, one of my first alternate income streams was actually a book of journal prompts. I was working with stressed out people and I just came up with, to be quite honest, a random book of journal prompts.
Awesome.
And, part of the problem was I didn't do any market research. I didn't choose a specific issue for them to journal around. I just kind of did it like the stress less. I think I called it like the live more journal.
Mm-hmm.
And like, really, what does that even mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like very vague. And I thought like, oh, it'll appeal to everyone and it's cheap. So I'll sell hundreds of that. But it's not true. Like things convert at a certain rate. And if it's like a low cost product, like a book, just think about it. If you're even selling the books, if you self-publish the book and you're selling it for yourself, which it'll probably be, just say average $15, it's probably not going to be much more than that. Just to make $1,500, you have to sell 100 of
Mm-hmm. Right.
them.
A lot.
So that's like one of the cons of books, right? It's not a profit maker, but what it does, which is the benefit of it, is that it really does give you that level of expertise and can often lead to more speaking opportunities and things like that. So if that's something you're interested in, then focusing on a book can be a really great idea. So it's almost like a puzzle. And once again, like you brought up the end game before, like really thinking about what's your end game or your current end game. We shift and twist it all the time, and thinking about how you could link the income streams together to get there.
Yes, I think I just keep going back to that idea of what is the end result that you want to have, because we can get so caught up in that shiny object syndrome of, oh, wow, that looks really fun. Or, oh, I could do that too. Or, oh, yeah, like, let me go over here and dabble with this for a little bit. I've been there so many times. It's like, no, Lisa, I own the prize. I own the prize. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. It's really like validating,
Mm-hmm.
personally, it's validating my progress and my process. So thank you. Thank you for being
Oh,
here.
good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that anybody who works with you is probably just getting such phenomenal support and coaching. Okay, so we've talked about the book. We've talked about like getting started with a group, one day kind of focused type of one day program. There's going to be someone listening who wants to do bigger. They want to take it to the next level of, I can almost hear it. Like I have a series of e-courses that I want to create. Nicole, what do you think?
Right. And one of the, I think, hardest things for therapists is that they're just so smart. They have so much knowledge in a lot of areas to help people. And what happens is they try to cram it into one course. One type of course that I see all the time is self-care. Just like a general
Right.
self-care mindfulness type course. And it's just hard to get people into that versus, how to manage your life as a new mom.
I got you.
That would be a more attractive course to a specific audience. And it seems like, oh, I'll sell less of those. But you'll actually sell more of those because as long as you're building your community of
Mhm,
new moms,
mhm.
you'll actually be able to sell more of those because they'll connect to it more because it solves a problem that they have versus just general self-care, which they're going to get overwhelmed by because they're going to feel like it's just adding more to their plates that they don't have time for.
Right. But if you're speaking directly to them and you're calling out their pain, they're nodding their head and going, sign me up. Just sign me up right now.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. They're gonna say, "Oh, that looks
Mhm.
good, but do I really need that?"
Yeah.
Whereas when you're talking to their specific issue, they're going to totally get excited by it and be like, "Here's my money," you
Right.
know?
Right. Sign me up. Sign me up.
Exactly. So I think that that's really important to think about is how can you make your course more targeted and use your experience with clients. Once again, don't start from scratch. Don't start with a new audience. Like use the audience you already have and focus on a smaller specific problem that you see coming up over and over again
Yeah.
with them. And really make sure that you are building that bigger audience because truthfully, conversion rates, which is the amount of people that will buy from you based on the amount of people you have, can be between like 1% and 5%, which means like if you have 100 people on your list,
Mhm.
engaged people, you're going to sell between 1 and 5 courses for them. And hopefully you'll get more, but you
Right.
can't count on that.
Right.
So you really do want to be building that bigger audience, nurturing them, and really thinking about how you're going to sell to them, which I think is not something that, again, as therapists that we're trained to do.
Yeah.
I think that we hope we'll just put it on our website and people will find it and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be true a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but without a really good system to constantly bring in new people and sell it to them through emails, things like that, then there's a chance that it's just going to be a random sale once in a while.
Yeah, I think that's really, really wise to say that and to say it a couple times because I think we have this expectation that if we put it out there, it's gonna magically sell itself. Someone's gonna find me, but the conversion
Right.
rate, that conversion rate's really something to keep in mind for your very first course, your very first membership. Like it's okay if you only sell 1% if your list is
Mhm.
small. Like don't feel
Don't
like
freak out.
yeah, it's not a failure. It's just this is just where you are in the process. Just keep
Yeah.
going. I think that's a lot of it is they stop because it didn't work, and but what they don't realize is like they're just getting started, and it takes time and it takes
Right.
patience and consistency. So I think that's one of the for depending on who's listening, that's a pro and a con for an alternative income stream. Is it takes time. You have to be in it for the long haul. You can't just think it's going to you spend an hour doing one thing and it's going to pay you like it does for your hourly rate. It's a different process altogether.
Yes. And can I just tell you one more secret for a successful launch that I think always surprises people?
Yes, share, please.
You you want to actually sell it before you create it.
Yes, I know you told me that in our pre-recording call. So talk some about that because that kind of freaked me out a little bit. Like how do
Yeah.
you do that without freaking out?
Well, I think my failed book launch is a prime example of how I spend time putting a book together. And no, I sold very minimal copies of it. And honestly, once again, this is like that random thing. Like I have it on Amazon and I might sell like 10 copies a year. Now I don't have to do anything for those 10 copies to sell, but once again, I'm getting like maybe $4 per copy based on the Amazon rates.
Right.
So, $40 a year was it really worth it?
Yeah.
But I didn't quiz anyone. I didn't get clear on what they wanted. I didn't make sure it was something that was, going to be purchased. And I think that's the problem. That is the beauty, by the way, of doing a group first. Like you're not going to be able to run the group if people aren't in there.
Right.
So you're not losing out on any time and money. And by doing groups too, you can create content for the groups and then you can create your course from the group. So that's another benefit of the group. But the thing with courses is you don't want to I see people spend months on a course. And once again, it's not something people need. It's too vague. It's too broad. It doesn't solve their problem. So then people don't buy it. And you just have this course sitting there doing nothing. And you spend God knows how much money and time creating it.
Mhm.
So the best thing to do, and honestly, I've created several courses. I've never, other than that failed book thing, I've never created a course before I sold it.
Wow. Okay. Well, if you say so, if you say it works, I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
I can imagine it. I see that too in groups where therapists have spent money and time and they get these fancy learning management systems and they pay for these things up front and then nothing, they go to
yeah,
lunch and I feel so bad for them like that.
I know
You
it
spend the
breaks
money.
my heart.
Yeah.
But by selling the course in advance, you're validating the idea. And listen, like just say it's going to come out in a month or whatever, especially if it's evergreen, or give yourself
Mhm.
some time. And honestly, what I just basically do is I create the first week and then, I just stay a week ahead of it, or you could get 2 weeks ahead of it. I just, in the past few months, ran a business boot camp, built a bigger business boot camp program. And I actually had the content from a previous course, but I had to update all of it. So once again, I didn't update it all before I sold the program. I sold the program and then I just updated the content week by week. And it just kind of helped to do it in smaller chunks. I didn't have to spend 8 hours filming. I
Right.
wore the same outfit every week just to keep it consistent.
Mhm.
But I was able to really get through the content. I already had the income booked out. So I was more motivated to complete it and I wasn't wasting my time.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so smart. I'm so glad that I'm so glad you brought that up because I think a lot of folks need to hear that it's okay to kind of sell it first and then go from there. So if folks are listening and they want to learn more about you, they want to work with you, how should they get a hold of you?
They could head over to my website at NicoleLiloia.com.
Okay.
And if they are interested in learning about new income streams, I'll just give a shout out to a freebie, just like we were just talking about,
Right. Sure.
as a great example. And they could go to they could get my guide for therapists on multiple income streams. And they can just go to, I'm going to make it easy, NicoleLiloia.com
Okay.
slash Lisa for that. And I'll
Oh,
create a little link so it goes right there for them. So it's easy.
great. We will definitely put that in the show notes. So if folks are listening and they're wondering how to spell your name, which I don't ever want to butcher, again, we will put that in the show notes, and you guys can head to her website and check her out. She writes some great emails. You've given so much. You give away some amazing value just by being on your email list and that guide. So I'm hopeful that people will come over and check you out. And then, is there anything else that we should know about you? Do you have anything coming up that you want to share?
No, I'm always like releasing new programs and putting a lot of free content out there. I do free challenges and stuff like that. So the best way is just to keep an eye on the emails that are coming in. And, I'd really love to hear, when you sign up for the freebie, hit reply and let me know when you get that first email in that list, what income stream you're thinking about focusing on next.
Yeah, because you read all your emails that you get back, I'm sure.
Yes, I read and
Yeah.
respond to all of them. So I'd love to hear from people if
Yeah.
they have any questions.
Yeah, I know I'm always asking in my emails to hit reply and let me know, and I just want people to know that I read them when you send them. That
Yeah.
not everybody will hit reply, but I just want you to know that I read them all when I get them, and I will respond for sure. So I know that you have a heart for this, you're passionate for this. I know that it lights you up, and I'm so glad that you're doing this work. It's been such an honor and fun to have you on the show. Thank you. Thank you again for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.